the first important component in our answer writing is what I was telling, the structure of the answer. In the structure, you need to write introduction, body part, and conclusion. Okay. So how to write the introduction? Always bring the context of the question. We will see what is the context. You will understand once I go forward. So let's take some examples, some questions from 2023. So read the first question here. Discuss the consequences of the climate change on food security on the food security in tropical countries. So the context, the main context of the question is food security. See, read the question. Discuss the consequences of climate change on food security in tropical countries. So here the context of the question is food security. So you need to bring in the introduction about the food security. Either you define food security or you give some data according to some food security report of Food and Agriculture Organization. The tropical countries are suffering this, whatever. I'll discuss how to write the content in the next part, next slides. But in introduction, bring the context. Let's see the second question. Do you think marriage as a sacrament is losing its value in the modern India? So what is the context here? Can anyone comment? Here the context is marriage. The questions, the main context is marriage. Then they are asking some other points, but the context is marriage. So bring about the marriage in the introduction. So marriage is a union of two individuals with two different gender, whatever may be. So you can just write about the marriage in the introduction part. Now see one more question, third question. Virus of conflict is affecting the functioning of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. In the light of the above statement, point out the role of India in mitigating the problem. Here, what is the context? Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So the main context is about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So bring it on in the introduction. Shanghai Cooperation Organization is a this union security cooperation in the Middle East countries or South Asian countries. Whatever you want to define, bring it in the introduction. So what I want to tell is that always bring the context in the introduction. That's how you make the examiner know that you understood the question and you're going to address what exactly the demand of the question. Okay. So this is the part. You take any questions, you bring all any questions from past 10 years. I can tell you what is the context in the given question. So bring it on in the introduction. Now, second thing, second part of our structure is body part. What you're going to write in the body part. Identify the demand of the question. Context has been done. You have already written in the introduction. Now, in body part, identify demands. There may be one, there may be two, there may be three. So in 15 markers, usually there will be 2-3 demands of the question. Let's take the same question that we have taken for the introduction. Discuss the consequence of climate change on food security in tropical countries. So context is food security done. Now in body part, demand here is consequence of climate change on food security in tropical countries. You can bring this into the side heading and write down what is the consequences, what consequences has been there in the tropical countries. So you can say that poverty is increasing, nutrition, food, the element of nutrition, there may be gender element. So bring 5-6 dimensions and write what are all the consequences you want to do. Okay, but identifying the demand is the core. Next, let's see the second question. Do you think marriage is as a sacrament is losing its value in modern India? So what is the demand here? They are asking you, test, you give your opinion whether marriage has lost its value in the modern India or not. So it is an analysis based questions. So you can write the side heading as marriage as a sacrament. So just you don't give any instruction that whether you are supporting or against, just give it as a marriage as a sacrament in Indian society if you want, or modern Indian society. Write down your views. Yes, sacrament, justify 2-3 things whether it is still a sacrament because most of the union of two individuals is happening through marriage. You justify whatever the content. I'm going to discuss the content part here, only structuring the answer. So demand is the main theme. See the third question. Here, virus of conflict is affecting the functioning of SEO. So this is the first demand, that some conflict of interest between the countries is affecting Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So there is a first demand. Write down how it is affecting, how the conflict of interest, whether India, Pakistan, or whether it is Russia and other countries or India China relations. You can bring all the content. And there is also second demand. In the light of above statement, point out the role of India in mitigating the problems. So here, role of India, in mitigating the problem. Second side heading. So in this question, we have two demands, conflicts, and then role of India. So write down all those things, two demands in the body part. And now going forward to the third part, that is conclusion part or way forward. So based on the question, you write conclusion or way forward. If it is an issue based question, if there is some issue in the question, write down way forward. If there is no issue in the question, then conclude the answer. Let's take example, you'll understand. Same questions. Discuss the consequence of climate change in food security in tropical countries. So here it is an issue because climate change is an issue and that is related to food security. Here don't write conclusion, rather write way forward after addressing the demand. I mean, in way forward, give some solutions. Way forward, you put side heading and then write what are all measures we can take to address this issue of climate change. Write down 4 or 5 points. Now, second question, do you think marriage as a sacrament in losing its value in modern India? There is no issue. What is the issue in marriage? There is not much issue. So you can conclude whatever you have analyzed. So though marriage, is being lost its value because of modernity or Sanskritization, whatever, still there is a majority part of Indian societies which is giving more important to marriage. So you can conclude in whatever way you need because there is no issue. Now, here again there is a issue based question. There is issue in Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So you need to view way forward how we can take this Shanghai Cooperation Organization to the next level. That's how you need to identify way forward or conclusion based on the question. If it is an issue based, bring way forward. If it is not an issue based, just conclude the answer. Right. So this is the structure. Many of the students are coming with how we can structure, how structure has to be done. Right. So how to generate a dub heading, side heading. Someone has asked, Anjali, that's what I'm telling you. Identify the demand. See the questions here. Discuss the consequence of climate change in food security. So, what is the demand here? Consequence of climate change on food security. That is a subheading. Do you think marriage as a sacrament in India? Again, what is the demand? Marriage, whether sacrament or not. So, marriage as a sacrament. Put simple side heading and analyze your support and against views. Don't give marriage in support of sacrament in not against. So some people, some students are writing very mechanical side heading. Don't do that. Just give simple side heading and then write down your analysis. Okay. So three parts. Structure means introduction, body, conclusion. In introduction, you bring the context. What is the context? Identify it. And then in body part, identify the demands, 1, 2, 3, how many demands are there, identify all subparts of or demands in the body part, and conclude. If it is a issue based question, bring way forward. If it is not issue based question, then you conclude your own opinion or summarize the answer that you have written. Okay. Yeah. So someone has said they just joined. We will upload it in the YouTube so you can see these things because it will take a lot of time. So introduction, body, conclusion, I have already done. Now, approach of the answer. So you have already structured the answer, introduction, body, and conclusion based on whatever we have seen, context, demand, and issue based. Now, how to approach the answer? See, the examiner, think from the examiner perspective. If you are writing 3, 4 lines in each of the point, he or she will get bored after reading 1 or 2 questions. Always write very simple points, 1 or 2 lines. That's all. Don't go beyond 2.5 line for each of the point. Okay, so make it very simple point. Then art of describing in short words. So develop it. If you are writing like marriage is a sacrament or not, if your analysis is more than 4, 5 lines, just develop. Take practice a lot of answers and then try to express in just 2 lines. Okay, so that art to be developed. Then justify your points. Whatever you have written, 4, 5 points. For every point, you need to write example. At least for most of the points, give some example. Put example in brackets and write down, justify your point, whether from example of the current issues or some data oriented. It is up to you, but justify. That is also important. Then comes the presentation in your approach. Just combine the things in all the answers. You have 20 questions. Use some point approach, some flowchart approach, some table approach, some diagrammatic. Mix up the things. Don't monotonously write all the 20 questions in similar manner. That will also get bored to the examiner. So mix it up. Use flowcharts and diagrams to diversify your approaches in the answers. So that is the second part after structure, the approach of the answer. Then third comes the content. How will you do this content, how you'll get these examples and all, that you need to pre-prepare short notes for each of the topics mentioned in the syllabus. You go for GS paper 1, we have art and culture, modern history, then post independence, world history, social issues, geography. You should have a very pre-prepared notes. You can prepare from static part or current affairs, take 1 year monthly magazines, identify all the subtopics mentioned in the syllabus, have a brief notes, issue, solution, some data. You should have a very pre-prepared notes. Many students will think that UPSC will test your analysis, knowledge, all these things. Nothing will happen in the exam, or whenever the examiner gets the paper, he will or she will just do what is the content, what is the structure, what is the presentation. He or she is not going to test how good you are, how good knowledgeable you are. Those are all very mythical things to estimate. Okay, so have a very pre-prepared crisp note and put those content in the answers. That's all you need to do. Okay, divide your content in paper-wise distribution. So GS paper 1 you can take art and culture, history, post-independence, world history. Again subdivide. Take one file for GS paper 1. Subdivide into 10 pages for each of the subject, and within that you just have a brief notes. Take example of modern history. We have workers movement, we have women movement, we have Gandhiji role, we have education. Divide into subtopics and write down very short crisp notes for each of the topic. Same for all the subjects. Then your note should have static plus dynamic content. For dynamic content, collect 1 year monthly magazines of Vision IS. We have social issues, we have political, economics, environment. So if it is environment, open your GS paper 3 file, open the environmental notes, write down the heading, write down 4 5 points. So half page for each of the article. So you should have a very crisp note. And then note down the examples from newspaper, the Hindu. So that's why we were telling you that newspaper is very, very important. You have to note down the examples, put it to in your notes to justify your points. Okay, so this all things you should be included in your answer. And finally, you have to practice. The most important thing is you have to do daily answer writing. If you are a very new student without giving any means, you should write answers daily. At least 2 months before prelims you can stop, but before that you have to do daily answer writing. This will make you how to structure the answer, how to simplify the points. If you're directly jumping into the test series, that will not work, because your brain will rush and try to or not learn anything. Rather, you will just mechanically write the answer. So try to do daily answer writing. And once you are comfortable with all these things, then go for the test series, right? So this is very basic things that you need to take care when you are doing the answer writing.